Well, we've been hearing this morning that Christmas can be a difficult time for divorced or separated parents, where arrangements have to be made where children will spend the festive period. But earlier we spoke to the journalist Sally Hughes.
I think the most important thing about Christmas and children that people have to remember is, as hard as it is, as painful as it can be, as a parent, it is simply not about you, it's about your children. So you have to try and come up with a solution that makes your children as happy as possible. In our case, we decided to take it in turns. So I have my children this Christmas, and presumably he'll have them next Christmas.
And the difficulty is, of course, as parents, you might be trying to make sure the children are happy when they're younger, as Tony mentioned, as they grow older. Very often it's the children trying to please both parents. Here's a text from Holly in Manchester. I split Christmases between parents. One gets Christmas Eve in the morning and the other gets the rest of Christmas Day and Christmas dinner. Each year they swap over, and this has continued for the last 12 years. I'm now 27, my sister is 20, and we still want to give our parents equal time. Let's talk to Ray Bowery, who chairs the group Real Fathers for Justice. Good morning to you, Ray.
Oh, good morning.
So
hello.
When was the last time you spent Christmas with your children?
It was 5 years ago, and I spent it with just one of my children. My other two children I've not seen for 13 years now, at any time at all, Christmas or other times.
Without going too much into the details of your individual circumstances, presumably you tried over the years to come to some sort of arrangement with your former partner about how you could make this work for you and get some time with them?
Well, it was certainly not for lack of trying that I ended up in this situation. I mean, just to put something of a measure on it, there was approximately £100,000 spent in legal costs in court battles in my attempts to have contact with my children.
Did you say £100,000?
That's right, yes, £100,000. That was the sum total of the costs of both me and my ex-wife in our legal bills, and we're not wealthy people by any means at all. That's effectively mopped up any money that we would have had to invest in the future of our children, and it was just lost in this silly, futile battle. And now I don't have any contact with my children at all, and I don't see that can be to anyone's benefit. Not mine, not theirs, not my ex-wife's.
It must be heartbreaking at this time of year. How do you manage it then? What do you do instead?
Well, I think whatever happens in life, you kind of get used to it. And this is harder than just about anything else that I can imagine. I would rather have lost my arms than lost my children. That would have been easier to handle. I mean, my life has completely changed from the person I was 13 years ago when we separated, and this has driven the whole of my life ever since then. I think when you have an acrimonious split with a wife or partner, you get over that in time, but I don't think anybody can ever get over losing their children. This is emotionally harder to handle than if they'd died even, because they're still alive. They still live a mile and a half away from me, and yet I probably wouldn't recognise them if I passed them in the street now.
Wow. I mean, that must be really hard to deal with. I know that they're older now, your children, so in a sense it's their choice not to have contact with you. I don't know how you begin to rebuild those bridges, or whether that has become an impossibility for you now, Ray.
I think that is why the contact doesn't occur, why my children don't make their way to me. They know where I live. They know that I'd welcome seeing them, because I write to them periodically to reinforce that. But I just think that when they have these painful memories, as they must have the same as I have, these painful memories of not seeing me and the acrimony, life is probably easier for them to get on with by just shutting me out. It would be painful for them, I think, to try and rebuild the bridges. And a practical way of dealing with it is not to attempt to do that, and to simply get on with the life of which I'm no longer a part. And so I've resigned myself to what I think is the reality, that I will never see my children again. I work in supporting fathers. I see what happens in other fathers' relationships, and while it's comforting to think that children will come back when they're grown up and they can make their own choices, I think in reality that doesn't generally happen, simply because it's just too painful for them to try and do that.
Well, Ray, thank you very much for talking to us and for telling us about your own story.
Okay, thank you for having me on.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Bye.
Ray Barry, who chairs the group Real Fathers for Justice. So that's quite a different picture to the one we were hearing earlier, where every effort is made to negotiate a positive outcome for everyone involved. So how do you manage it? It's 9 o'clock, I'm Rachel Burden, and it's your call. How do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? The journalist Sally Hughes told us about the impact of her divorce.
We decided to take it in turns, so I have my children this Christmas, and presumably he'll have them next Christmas. But it's a question that families just have to kind of muddle through and make sure that the kids have as nice a Christmas as possible, because Christmas really mainly is for children.
And the chair of the Real Fathers for Justice group, Ray Barry, says he hasn't spent Christmas with his children in years.
This is harder than just about anything else that I can imagine. I would rather have lost my arms than lost my children. That would have been easier to handle.
It can be an incredibly painful process. We appreciate that, but do call us if you can. If you've broken up with the mother or father of your children, or indeed if your own parents have split up, this can affect you right through adult life. Have you decided what you'll be doing yet? Perhaps you'll have spent the weekend sorting it out. What plan have you come up with? How do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? Give me a call, 0500 909 693, or on social media, it's at BBC 5 Live.
The BBC News this morning. The government's being urged to prepare public services for a possible influx of Bulgarians and Romanians when working restrictions on migrants from the countries are lifted in just over a week's time. A centre-left think tank, the Institute for Public Policy Research, says ministers should do more in case large numbers decide to move here. Susan Hall is the Conservative leader of Harrow Council in London and says it's not just a case of throwing more money at services.
It's not as simple as that. We're concerned with the housing, schooling and, of course, the healthcare, because councils are more and more in control now of public health budgets. It's very difficult to look at. We've got to just be aware of what may happen and react as and when we can.
The Home Office says its focus is on ending abuse of movement within the EU. The Crown Prosecution Service has confirmed that Rolf Harris is to face 3 more charges of indecent assault, in addition to 13 alleged sexual offences he was charged with in August. The 83-year-old, who's due to stand trial in April, will return to court for a plea hearing in January. Our correspondent is Danny Shaw.
Rolf Harris will be prosecuted in relation to an indecent assault on a girl aged 7 or 8 in 1968 or 69, an indecent assault on a girl aged 14 in 1975, and also an indecent assault on a 19-year-old in 1984.
A British Airways plane with more than 200 people on board has struck an office building while preparing to take off from Johannesburg in South Africa. It happened last night as the aircraft was taxiing along a runway. No one on the plane was hurt, but 4 people inside the building were injured. There's a warning of strong winds and heavy rain for anyone travelling today. People driving high-sided vehicles, riding motorbikes or towing caravans are being urged to check conditions before setting out. Some train companies have said they expect services to be affected. Our reporter Nick Beak is at Euston Station.
They think that the disruption will really kick in from about midday today. That's when the weather will hit this part of London, and they're talking about putting in speed restrictions of possibly 50 miles an hour. The concern being that there could be debris or trees falling onto the tracks going north out of London here, and that of course would cause lots of disruption.
3 people have been killed after a car collided with a lorry and caught fire in North London. The crash happened on the North Circular in Arnos Grove at about midnight. The eastbound carriageway of the road is still closed and drivers are being urged to find other routes. Citizens Advice say councils in England and Wales are letting bailiffs get away with threatening and aggressive behaviour when they're collecting council tax debts. The charity claims debts can be made worse by charges being added on for bailiff visits. Mike Dixon is from Citizens Advice.
If you send round a bailiff and the bailiff charges another few £100s on top of a debt, the person who is in debt already, the situation is just going to get worse. If you can help them get their finances under control, they will be much more likely to be able to pay back to the council and also, look ahead to the next year with some confidence.
And the last RAF plane bringing British people home from South Sudan will leave the capital Juba this morning. There have been fierce fighting for the past week between government forces and rebels in the newly formed country. That's it for me. Deep breath, off to the mall. I shall see you all tomorrow for Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And maybe sometime. George, here's the sport.
Well, you've got the rest of the day. Thank you. England have called up the Durham leg spinner Scott Borthwick and the Kent off spinner James Treadwell to the Ashes squad after Graham Swan's retirement. Borthwick will be available for the 4th Test match, Treadwell for the 5th. Swan, meanwhile, has warned against interpreting his description of certain players as up their own backsides as a criticism of his England teammates. Swan named no names when he used those words and said later, "I wasn't talking about the England dressing room or anyone in it." Everton are in the Premier League's top 4 this morning after their 2-1 victory at Swansea. Ross Barkley with a stunning late winner from a free kick. Emmanuel Adebayo scored his first 2 league goals of the season to help Spurs, and their caretaker boss Tim Sherwood beat Southampton 3-2. And after a U-turn by the club's owner Vincent Tan, Malky Mackay will now remain in charge, it seems, of Cardiff City for the foreseeable future.
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, 5 Live Breakfast. Your call. Weekday mornings from 9. Call 0500 909 693. Calls are free from most landlines, but some networks and mobile operators will charge. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
How do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? That's what we're asking this morning. It can be an incredibly painful process to work out so that everyone involved is happy with the outcome. I know that some families manage it brilliantly, come to an arrangement. It might be the same thing year on year, so everyone knows exactly where they stand. And of course, whenever we speak to parents about this, they say that all they want is the best for their child. But how do you accommodate, I suppose, everybody's needs in all of this? Let us know. 0500 909 693. Kate Winslet has been targeted by a Fathers for Justice campaign because she says she doesn't believe in 50-50 parenting necessarily, for her at least, in her situation, that her children are not shuttled from one house to the next. And they've used her image in a campaign to say that every child should have a father this Christmas. But is that always right or appropriate? Should every parent have equal access at this time? How does it work for you? And this isn't just about young children. This can affect you right through your adult life. It might be that you're in your 40s and 50s now and your parents are divorced and you're still trying to keep both sets happy. How do you work it out? It's your call. It's 7 minutes past 9, but we'd love to hear from you. You can text as well, of course, on 85058. And you can tweet. It's at BBC 5 Live. Let's start off by talking to Nikki in Preston. Morning, Nikki.
Good morning.
Nice to have you on. So tell us how it works for you. What's your situation?
We have a little boy who's 9 years old. We split up quite a few years ago now, and every year we alternate it. This year it's my turn to have our little boy at Christmas, and next year it'll be back to his dad's again, and it just changes alternately each year. And
was that something that you were able to hammer out right at the beginning so that both of you were happy with it?
It just kind of happened, really. It started a few years ago as per the plans, can I have him this Christmas? And because we live sort of 7 or 8 miles apart and people obviously want to have a drink at Christmas, it seemed ridiculous we started off doing half a day and then swapping back halfway through the day, but then people didn't want to be driving and, shunting children back and forth in the car. So we just said it'd be just easier. So we have a rule where if you get to have them on Christmas Day, then you have to have them on New Year's Eve. That's the rule.
And how does your little boy find it?
He absolutely loves it. He has a good relationship with his dad. His dad's brilliant, and I do feel quite strongly that little boys do need the dads and the other outside family as well, the paternal grandparents and aunties and uncles. The kids should never feel like they're being torn between one set of parents to the other.
Well, that's it. It runs right through the family, doesn't it? As you say, it's aunts, uncles, it's cousins, it's grandparents as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. My parents split up years ago, and even to this day, there's still arguments, about seeing mum, seeing dad. That they still argue quite a lot. As a child, or not as a child anymore, as a grown-up, you feel bad for, your loyalty should be to your mum. If you go and see your dad, it's, oh, what about me? I still feel it now at 28 years old, and I was felt quite strongly that I didn't want my little boy to feel that way and feel like he was being disloyal by having a relationship with his dad's family.
And what's it like the Christmas that you're on your own? I'm sure you're not entirely on your own, but without your boy.
Generally speaking, if we've got our little boy, then we'll have it at home, and my family, my mum and stuff will come round. If we don't, then we try and get an invitation to somebody else's house, and my husband and I will go to somebody else's house, maybe his parents or something.
Well, thank you very much, Nikki, and have a lovely Christmas.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's Nikki in Preston. Let's talk to Darren in Stirling. Morning, Darren.
Morning.
And David as well, who's texted in. Hi, David.
Good morning.
Hi, David, which isn't your real name. We'll point that out. Explain your situation, because it's a little bit tricky for you this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to say that it's great to hear from someone like Nikki, who has obviously a really positive experience of what happens at Christmas. My general experience is a lot different to that. And often it's not that I don't see my children at Christmas, and I've been fortunate that even despite difficulties, I've managed to do that. The issue I have is that it never seems to run smoothly. And there always seems to be an issue in terms of when I collect them. As an example, my ex-wife never brings the children for contact with me ever. So I travel quite a long way every other weekend to see them. But there's one time, which is between Christmas and New Year, where she's either supposed to drop them off or pick them up, and that never happens. Unfortunately, and I always end up compromising. And the difficulty is that she won't talk to me about it, and ends up negotiating through my eldest daughter, which I find really frustrating, and obviously is completely unfair on the children as well.
And it's these niggly little details that can then kind of breed resentment and bitterness, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example this year. So I saw my daughter last weekend, which was great, and I was due to pick her up on Friday of this week, then to have her for a week and then go back probably Boxing Day or the day after. When she came last weekend, she said, "Dad, do you mind if I stay at home on Friday night because I'm going out with my friends?" Because she's 15, so she likes to spend time with her friends. So of course I say, "No, that's absolutely fine. You spend time with your friends." And I picked her up on Saturday. In the interim, sort of last week, I had a call from her saying, "Oh, can we swap? So can Mum bring me down on Saturday, and then you drop me off on Boxing Day?" And sometimes that's not possible because my parents live quite near them, so I'd arranged to go and see them, drop off presents for my niece and nephew on the Saturday. So of course it wasn't convenient, and now it's turned out that she's now refusing to collect on Boxing Day, despite the fact that there is a court order in place and has been for many years that actually talks about the exchanges, which I just find completely ridiculous, really.
Yeah, it all gets very complicated. Stay with us, David. Let's talk to Darren in Stirling. Darren, good morning. This is your first Christmas as a separated father.
Yeah, yes, it is.
So how are you approaching it? What's going to happen for you this year?
My son is only 2 and 7 months, so he's with his mum on Christmas Day, and then I have him Boxing Day to be returned Boxing Day evening at 7 p.m. And it's a great access, but it's still very, very difficult as a father and as an adult. And I know the most important thing is the well-being of the children and the happiness of the children. But, I'm a recently separated dad, and I still have those pains. And so when I have him and then when he goes, it's still very, very difficult. So with the advent of Christmas as well, it just seems to be exasperating everything and compounding everything. And I'm sure in the future, as my son gets older, it'll get better and better and better for everyone.
And because he's so young, do you think he has any kind of understanding of what's going on?
No, well, that's one of the great things. Because he is so young and he's fickle and he's, everything's disposable to him, he can quickly move on to one thing and to another. And he will always, and I believe he's always being loved by whoever he's coming into contact with grandparents, with his mum's friends, stuff like that. So I always know that. And I always hope that will continue in the future for future Christmases. But the relationship is strained between his mum and myself, so the communication about what I can do on Christmas Eve or what I can't do on Christmas Eve is difficult to find out. Just asking if I can leave Christmas presents there for my son to open on Christmas Day, if I can do this on Christmas Eve, I still had no communication about that.
Yeah, that's really
difficult.
Tricky. I wonder, David, do you have any advice for Darren, having been in his situation for a little bit longer?
I'd like to say that things get better, but in my experience, that they don't get better. I think if you've got a strained relationship with your partner, it's really difficult. I mean, if you can try and develop or maintain a better relationship with your partner, obviously for the benefit of the children, that's the best way forward. Because if you do have that strained nature within your relationship, it inevitably it makes it more difficult.
Mhm. Thanks for that.
Well, Darren, I wish you all the best. I hope it goes okay.
Thank you.
That's Darren in Stirling, and David as well, who texted into us. How do you manage it then? It's very difficult, but how do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? You can give me a call 0500 909 693. You can tweet me. You can text on 85058. We'll talk to Sharon and to Jeff in just a moment. It's coming up to 9:15, and Michelle has pegged it into the room because it's quite a busy morning, isn't it?
It is a busy morning, yes, on the roads. If you do have to make a journey today and you're not in work and you can do the journey earlier rather than later, that is the advice at the moment, to do it before the bad weather hits where you are. Having said that, we are seeing very bad conditions on the roads already in the southwest of the UK, especially around Devon. The A38 at the moment, Tamar Bridge, has one lane closed actually. That's because of the strong winds there. The A38 Parkway around Marsh Mills, traffic also looking bad there because of surface water. Very tricky conditions at the moment. Also warnings as well for all the bridges generally. I know the M4 at the moment, the Britain Ferry Bridge, that has warnings in place there if you're travelling on that bridge. In Gloucestershire, the M48 Severn Bridge as well. Strong winds mean one lane is currently closed. The M25, the QE2 bridge, they're thinking we're going to have to close it around about midday. At that point, all traffic will be sent through the Dartford Tunnel, so we can expect delays in both directions at the crossing around lunchtime. Elsewhere, looking at problems in Norfolk, the A47 eastbound after the A11 at Thickthorne roundabout. A broken down lorry blocking one lane and causing queuing traffic. In Bedfordshire, the A421 in both directions, just near the M1 junction 13, remains closed because of an accident. In Essex, the A12 Brentwood bypass has reopened now in both ways, between junctions 12 and 11 where it meets the M25. You will still find queuing traffic for the time being. Dagenham, the A13 eastbound at Marsh Way. An earlier accident and a spillage means the main carriageway there is closed. The diversion is to go via the slips. The A406 between Bounds Green Road and Clockhouse Interchange. The road has now reopened after a serious accident overnight. Do expect delays for the time being back to the Coney Hatch Interchange. The westbound side still looking busy, although that was reopened a while ago. In Bow, the A12 southbound, that remains closed for repair work between the Bow Interchange and the A13. Just beware in Kent, the A2, Watling Street coastbound, just before the Ebbsfleet turn-off. Because of an accident, the road's still partially blocked, which is causing queuing traffic. And just a quick look at the rail. Widespread problems on the rail network. Rail companies across Wales and southern England already have revised timetables in place. As the day goes on, this will also affect journeys further north. If you can do your journey sooner rather than later, that's the best thing to do. They have said tickets for specific trains don't count today, so you can use any train just to get to your journey safely.
Which is handy, actually.
Which is very handy, yes.
So Michelle will be with us throughout the morning. Of course, don't forget to stay in touch with her if you are out and about on the roads, on the trains today and right through the day on 5 Live. Some texts and some tweets then. How do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? Keith on Twitter says, once my son James ate 2 Christmas dinners to keep me and his mum happy, one at each house. And my ex, says Mick in Castleford, has asked me to stay in her spare room so I can be there when our daughter wakes up. That's the best Christmas present I've ever had. And Andy in Essex, I've been divorced 5 years now, but from the start my ex and I agreed to co-parent amicably. Every Christmas day we get together for dinner with our respective mothers and the kids, but not our partners. Christmas is for the kids. Merry Christmas, he says.
On the 12 days of Christmas, 5 Live gave to me Freddie Flintoff's ashes.
Hello, I'm Freddie Flintoff.
Crosses, shots and passes.
Shoot,
Memories with you, Dennis.
When I was a kid, I lived in a vicarage.
Champions of tennis.
Murray's just won Wimbledon.
Bump Club Christmas babies.
We're all doing well.
Rodent scaring ladies. Dinner with Al Murray.
Hello there, this is Al Murray.
Vettel in a hurry.
Sebastian Vettel, 37th win of his career.
5 Live News. 6:06 with fans.
He's got no idea of how to motivate.
Danny Baker's nans.
Let's get some saxophone playing grandmothers on the show.
Troops in foreign lands.
Merry Christmas from Camp Bastion.
5 Live Christmas for all the family.
For our full festive schedule, go to bbc.co.uk/5live.
This is 5 Live Breakfast. Your call.
And it's 18 minutes past 9. Good morning. How do you manage Christmas after a family breakup? Let's talk to Sharon and to Jeff, and we've got Jenny as well. Sharon, first of all, how does it work for you?
Morning. I split up from my husband in 99, and straight away, because our daughter's birthday is New Year's Day, we just decided to alternate each year. So, and then I got together with my present partner in 2001, and he had 2 young children as well. And we just did the same as we've gone through, and it worked really well because in 2003 we moved from Yorkshire to Scotland. And it just would have been impossible to have split the day. So we've just carried it on since 1999, and it's worked very well all the way through.
And have the children always been happy with that?
Yeah, well, they get 2 Christmases.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because if we didn't have Christmas with them, we'd spend Christmas in Yorkshire with the family, and they'd have 2 Christmases. So yes, it's always worked really well, but it does rely on all the partners, honouring agreements.
Yeah, and that can be the tricky bit because, as you say, it's not then just you and your ex and a new partner. It might be your new partner's ex as well, and there are lots of different relationships to juggle here, aren't there?
Yeah. So we were very lucky, and it's always worked out for us.
Well, have a lovely Christmas, Sharon. Thank you very much for calling. Jeff's in Bristol then. Jeff, how do you manage it, Jeff?
Yes, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Well, my situation's slightly different to a few of your callers in that I've been the resident parent and the non-resident parent. So I've been both sides of the fence. And the point that I'd like to make is that once the children reach a reasonable age, and even as young as sort of 8 and 9, I think it's important that both the separated parents, listen to the child's viewpoint. They are more than capable of making a decision, and you should put the best interest of the children first. Whether you're the resident or the non-resident parent, you have to some degree go along with their views.
How is that then if they decide, Jeff, for example, that they don't want to spend Christmas with you?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, a massive downer for anybody. But if that's the child's wish, then as a parent, you have to go along with that. I've been through the court procedure, and I went to court to get a court order to obtain Christmas contact. That's a very long-winded and expensive way of doing it, and it's not necessarily the best way. In fact, it's probably the worst thing you can possibly do, because it just creates animosity between the two parties.
I just wonder, though, when you put the onus on the child to decide, is there not a danger that puts pressure on them, that they'll feel the responsibility of keeping both parents happy?
Yes, definitely. It's a perfectly valid point. However, whichever way you do it, there's not an easy answer. There's not an ideal solution.
No.
But I listen continuously to people sort of, warring, if you like, between, different times. I want the child at 5 o'clock. I want the child at 7 o'clock. I wants don't get. It's an old saying. And to some degree, you have to sit the children down. Both parents have to sit the children down, speak to them, and see what's best for them.
Listen to them.
It's not an ideal situation.
Jeff, all right, stay with us. Let's talk to Jenny as well. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for getting in touch. Is Jeff right? How much can you let the decision-making be made by the child?
I feel quite humble now, because I must admit the arrangement we came up with was more driven by my emotions. It was for the children, because I didn't want them to miss out on Christmas with either parent. But we settled in, after we separated, I think about 11 years ago now, we settled down into a year arrangement just because that seemed to be the thing to do. And the first year that I had them, I didn't like it the year that their dad had them, because I didn't have them, obviously. And then the first year that I had them, I didn't like that. Sorry, the first year that I had them, I didn't like that either, because I was aware how he felt from the year before when I'd been on my own. So that didn't work for me at all. So my partner suggested, well, why don't we just do it all a day early? And then every year, both parents get full Christmas, and everybody knows where they're going to be every year, because it's the same. And we've done that ever since.
So
it works brilliantly.
You have your Christmas on Christmas Eve, do you, Jenny?
We do, yeah, full dinner.
The whole lot.
All the presents are under the tree tonight, ready for tomorrow morning. So
oh, my goodness. I was going to say, are you in the thick of it now, then?
No, I'm still in bed.
Oh, well done. Even better. Oh, nice.
We're all, pretty much ready. So they're older now. They're, almost 19 and 21, but they still seem to really love having 2 Christmases and it's just so easy for them because they haven't got to pre-think they things going to be, and they'll just toddle along it sometime today, and we'll probably go out. But it's actually ideal because we can go out for dinner tonight, and everywhere will not be packed because it's not Christmas. And the very first year I did it, I forgot stuffing, so I popped out to the shops.
And you were able to get it. That's brilliant. And what about them, now that they're older, do they talk to you about it, and can they kind of articulate how that's been for them over the years?
They haven't, no. But I think after this phone, I may well ask them actually how it's worked for them, because it was really quite. It was the part that I suggested we did it this way because, much as I didn't like their dad being on his own, I didn't want to not have them either, and it just seemed an ideal way to do it.
I don't want to hold you back from your line for too much longer, but what do you then do on Christmas Day?
Christmas Day is probably it's a bit flat, but then after you've had 2 full-on days with the fake Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, it's quite nice to have a quiet, reflective day anyway, and it just so happens that our quiet, reflective day is Christmas Day. So it's almost having like a down day between our Christmas Day and Boxing Day. And Boxing Day was always full on for us because that was my mum's birthday. Now she's sadly not around anymore, but as a family, that's the day that the family will get together for lunch, and so it doesn't work too badly in the family dynamic. I must admit, it's quite. It took a bit of getting used to, but it's quite nice having that quiet, calm day. And of course, you've got the telly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You can watch all that Christmas Day telly undisturbed. Thank you so much, Jenny. Really lovely to hear from you. You can go back to your cup of tea now. That's Jenny, who got in touch with us. Thanks to Jeff as well. Here's Jay in Haywards Heath in West Sussex. Hi, Jay.
Hello.
Thank you for calling in. So how do you manage it?
Well, we've done lots of things wrong since we separated 6 years ago, but the one thing that we've really done fantastically well is that whoever has the child or the children the night before Christmas passes them over on Christmas Day at 10:30 so that you both get to see them on Christmas Day. And it's worked really fantastically well. And even my 10-year-old, yesterday was saying, "Oh, it's brilliant Christmas Day, I can't wait," because they've got 2 of them. And it works really, really well.
Yeah, I do know a lot of families who manage it like that, actually. But does it mean it kind of ties you to being quite close to each other geographically? It has to work, doesn't it?
It does in one way, but I suppose within an hour's drive or whatever, it's still pretty reasonable to do that. So, but again, the kids are up so early that whoever has them on Christmas Eve just has to get up early, and then a bit like your previous caller, you get to sleep the rest of the day because you've been up early.
Snooze on the sofa.
It actually makes the day quite nice.
And there's never been a time when one or the other of you has said, "You know what, actually I just fancy getting away this Christmas, having a holiday." That's never been an issue.
Well, I think now the kids are older, they're 13 and 10, that I think that if that were to happen now, but I think when they were younger, obviously, we've been separated for 6 years, that you really don't want to go away with the kids because it's really nice.
Well, thank you for calling us. Very nice to hear from you, Jay in Haywards Heath in West Sussex. So how do you make it work for you and your family and the children? But particularly perhaps if you are a child, if you're an adult child of 2 parents coping with divorced parents, I'd love to know how you manage it, and is there a huge amount of kind of emotional responsibility that lies with you to keep the parents both happy at this time of year? 0500 909 693. It's 9:28. We'll take more of your calls after the news and sport, but first the weather, because there is a lot of it around, Simon.
There is indeed, yeah, already turning very wet across Northern Ireland, Wales and the southwest of England. The wind's picking up here as well. A recent gust of 71 miles per hour in the Isles of Scilly. Those winds will just get stronger as the morning goes on into the afternoon, and we do have an amber warning from the Met Office. That's the second highest warning. To be prepared for potential flooding, disruption. There could be some power failures, some trees coming down, that sort of thing, because they are damaging winds, and the rain is likely to cause some problems with some flooding today. So the Environment Agency website is the place to go for those flood warnings. Now, the rain is moving its way north and eastward, so all of us seeing a spell of torrential rain, widespread gales developing as well. Now, for Scotland, we've also got some snow to contend with, mainly over the higher ground of the Highlands, the Grampians and the southern uplands. Blizzard-like conditions here, so atrocious conditions over the higher ground of Scotland with that snow. Now, the rain Sleet and snow is all moving its way north and eastward. It should get better as we go into the evening. Still some very strong winds around, though. Maximum temperature is about 7 or 8 degrees. Now, from Northern Ireland, the rain is going to edge its way out here by lunchtime. So this afternoon, a little bit better. Some drier, some brighter weather coming through. Still some gale force weather, winds, and temperatures about 10 Celsius. Across England and Wales, well, for Northern England, Wales and the North-West Midlands, the rain will clear here. So not perhaps as bad as it's going to be further south. You might see some showers this afternoon. A few bits of snow over the Pennines, but drier, perhaps brighter. Temperatures about 9 or 10 degrees. But across South Wales and through all of southern England, the rain is going to be very heavy, very persistent. We could see as much as 60 millimetres of rain falling by the end of today. And while there might be a brief respite, a lull in the rain this evening, it will turn heavy again, actually, as we go through tonight across Wales and through much of southern England. The wind's picking up and they'll be at their strongest later on this afternoon, this evening. Gusts of wind of 50 to 60 miles per hour inland, around the coastal areas, 70 to 80 miles per hour. And again, into tonight, they will be stronger across the far southeast of England. So really very, very nasty conditions across the south of the UK today. Now, tonight, the rain will finally clear away to the North Sea, the English Channel, by the early hours of Tuesday morning. But then our attention turns to Scotland. That's when we'll start to see the winds picking up here. Gusts of wind of 80, perhaps 90 miles per hour across Scotland, Northern Ireland, some winds of 60, 70 miles per hour across Northern England and North Wales during tomorrow. So that's where the most hazardous conditions will be tomorrow. Blizzard-like conditions once again across Scotland, snow across the Pennines, the high ground of Northern Ireland, but for most across southern parts of England, still a very windy day tomorrow, but the winds won't be as strong as today. The rain will have cleared away, so a better day in prospect for southern areas tomorrow. For all of us, Christmas Day is going to be a quieter day. There will still be some showers around. Some of those could turn a little bit wintry, but the winds will be lighter. But be warned, we're going to see another storm moving its way in for Thursday night and into Friday. So a lot of very bad weather to come over this Christmas period. Really do stay tuned to the forecast.
Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah, we'll keep in touch with Simon, obviously, throughout the morning and let you know what's going on out there. It's 5 Live Breakfast. It's your call. And the time is, 9:31.
On digital radio, digital TV, mobile and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
And here's the 5 Live news from Richard Foster.
Heavy rain and strong winds could disrupt road and rail travel ahead of the Christmas break. Amber rain warnings are in place in Wales, the east and southwest of England, and London and the southeast. Train companies are expecting disruption. Michelle will keep you updated throughout the morning. Rolf Harris is facing 3 further prosecutions for sexual assault, including one against a girl aged 7 or 8. The 3 counts are in addition to 13 alleged sexual offences he was charged with back in August. The government's being urged to prepare public services for the arrival of Bulgarians and Romanians when restrictions are lifted in just over a week's time. The Institute of Public Policy Research, a centre-left think tank, says there could be increased pressure on housing, the NHS, schools and the police. A West Ham defender has been charged with assaulting a police officer over an incident at an Essex nightclub. James Tompkins was refused entry at the Sugar Hut Village in Brentwood. He's accused of assault, resisting arrest and being drunk. And a British Airways plane has hit an office building as it prepared to take off from Johannesburg. 4 people inside the building were hurt as the plane's right wing became wedged inside. It had apparently taken the wrong taxiway. Sport now, here's George.
England have called up the Durham leg spinner Scott Borthwick and the Kent off spinner James Treadwell to their Ashes Test squad after the retirement of Graham Swann. More on that in a moment. Borthwick was tipped by Swann as his successor too. He's going to be available straight away for the 4th Test. From Melbourne, Mark Pugach.
Durham's Scott Borthwick was name-checked by the retiring Graham Swann in his press conference as one to watch in the near future. The 23-year-old leg-spinning all-rounder took 34 wickets last season at an average of 33 and made over 1,100 runs at 41, up the order for the county champions. He's been playing grade cricket in Sydney, so he's available for the final 2 tests. But James Treadwell, who's on his way out from the UK now, will only be in the running for the final game in Sydney. Treadwell's played 1 test match in Bangladesh and 24 one-day internationals. But last season in the county championship, the off-spinner struggled, 17 wickets at 56. Both will be cover for Monty Panesar, who's likely to play at the MCG on Boxing Day.
Swan, meanwhile, has warned against interpreting his description of certain players as up their own backsides as a criticism of his England teammates. Swan named no names when he used the words and later stated, "I wasn't talking about the England dressing room or anyone in it." To the football, where Everton moved into the Premier League's top four with a 2-1 victory at Swansea. Emmanuel Adebayor scored his first 2 league goals of the season to help Spurs and caretaker boss Tim Sherwood beat Southampton 3-2. While following a U-turn by the club's owner Vincent Tan, Malky Mackay will now, it seems, remain in charge of Cardiff City for the foreseeable future. We can speak to their former striker, Rob Earnshaw. Morning, Rob. What do you make of what's going on there?
I just think it's been a little bit, a little bit unprofessional. It could have been handled better. I don't know how everything's kind of come out. I don't know how everything is kind of being so messy, I think.
The fans, it seemed at the weekend, were right behind the manager. Do you think Vincent Tan, who was at Anfield, saw that, heard that, and reacted accordingly?
Probably, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it's not very difficult to miss. So I think the fans just seem that they support the manager because just that how it's handled, how it's been handled, and how everything is. I mean, it is bad enough that they went and just changed the colours of the club after so many years and so much history. I think there's a lot to do with that as well.
Do you think it'll last, this? We're told that now for the foreseeable future. That's the latest bit of news we get. Do you think this can last, Tan and Mackay together?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think it's inevitable. I think, if things are happening like this now, I can't see it, because, the results are not always going to be great. So, they lost on the weekend and they're not in a great position, but, they're doing good, but they're not in a great position in the league. So it's going to be tough, because there's going to be a time where they lose a few games and they have a rough patch. So it's, what are the chairmen going to do then?
How unsettling, Rob, do you think this is for the players? I'm sure you're still in touch with some other players there. What will it be like for them in the dressing room?
I mean, I think it's just difficult because I think it's difficult more off the pitch, just when they're not actually playing, because then it's like, what's happening or what's going on? There's so much, and Cardiff is a club where there's so much going on, and if the fans want so much information day to day, and it's like, what's happening, so that they'll be bombarded everywhere they go, I think they'll be actually more comfortable when they actually play and on the pitch. I think Saturday against Liverpool was just like just a footballing lesson. I think Suarez is just untouchable right now, that, it couldn't be any other way. But the players will find it difficult a little bit. I think they're very good guys. They're very professional. So I'd imagine when they go out and they play, they're really focused.
Rob, great speaking to you, and continue to enjoy your time in the MLS. Rob Earnshaw with Toronto at the moment. He's currently back for Christmas. Great to speak to him. Just to tell you finally, last year's King George VI Chase runner-up, Captain Chris, is out, we're told, of the 2013 race. That's Boxing Day at Kempton because of what's described as a minor leg injury.
On digital and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, 5 Live Breakfast. Your call. Weekday mornings from 9. Call 0500 909 693. Calls are free from most landlines, but some networks and mobile operators will charge. Text 85058. Text will be charged at your standard message rate.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Good morning, it's your call. Rachel Burden with you. It's 9:38. How do you decide where your children spend Christmas after a separation? It can be a very difficult process of a negotiation, trying to keep everyone happy. Lots of different calls this morning. Those from people who say they manage it by doing 2 Christmases, others who split Christmas Day in half. And then there was Jeff, you may have heard him, who says, well, now that the kids are older, he tries to let them decide where they want to be. So how do you manage it? And if you are a child of separated parents, what impact did it have on you? what kind of decisions were made on your behalf, or how much control did you have over what went on? 0500 909 693. Lots of people to talk to, including Andy in Essex, Anne in Birmingham. Morning to both of you. We'll start with David in Essex as well. Hi, good morning, David.
Good morning.
Now, you've just dropped your children off to your ex-partner's house, is that right?
Yes, I did, yeah.
So
it was
what?
a bit difficult, but...
Yeah, go on, tell us more.
Well, my partner's from Manchester. I was living up there for a number of years. We relocated back down to Essex in July so that we could be closer to my two children, because I did about 20,000 miles in contact last year. But obviously the Christmas period we knew was going to be difficult, so we had a kind of pre-Christmas weekend this weekend, which was wonderful, and all four children had a fantastic time. We didn't spend loads of money. We went walking down the beach with the puppy. We did go to a pantomime, but we planned it for probably 2 months, especially by talking to the older, my son, as he's nearly 13, and asking him what he wanted. He was very mindful of, if you like, upsetting his mother. So we took a decision that we would have Christmas Day on our own this year without children, with a plan for next year that we have all four children together. And I left this morning at 10 to 9 to drop my children off, which is only about a 15-minute drive. My partner left at the same time for a 4-hour drive to Manchester to drop hers back, we had a few tears between her and I last night, but I think it's how you cope and manage it is as adults, and what we've tried to do is plan it right, understanding that it might be painful for us, but try and do what's right for the kids, and that's what we've hopefully done.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll have had a really memorable weekend with you. What will you do on Christmas Day now, David?
It's very strange. It's all adults around my mother's. So my mother came round yesterday as well and did Christmas cookies with the four children, baking, which was, again, very old-fashioned but fantastic, and there's, lovely photos of it, because she probably, I know she felt hard that she wasn't going to have any grandchildren with her on Christmas Day. So it's kind of 7 adults around my mum's, and then Boxing Day, all round ours. I'll have my 2 back for Boxing Day, and my nieces and nephews, which would be lovely. But so it's just going to be adults on Christmas Day, which will be fine, and we'll FaceTime or Skype my partner's 2 children, obviously in Manchester, and we'll also FaceTime my 2 children on Christmas morning. We just think that's probably the best way forward. But I think, I can't say enough positive things about my partner and how she's managed and coped with it. This will be her first Christmas ever without her children, so it's a huge thing for her. But, testament to her, she's very, very adult about it and tries to keep her own emotions away from the children. She has never once said to the children, "What do you want?" because I know they would choose her. But she and her ex-husband, has also been very good about it as well. He understands that next Christmas the 2 boys will be with us. So.
Yeah, it's tough though, as you say, but you just kind of have to get on with it and make the best of it. David, thank you so much. Andy in Essex has quite a different story. Andy, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. I've been separated and then divorced from my ex-wife for 5 years now. I think we agreed from the start that we would remain amicable and that the interests of the children come first. We'd continue to co-parent. I suppose we're lucky in that sense because, if it's a more bitter ending to a relationship, then it wouldn't be possible. But what we've done ever since is to have family Christmases together. So this year, I'll be going to her house. Neither of our partners will be there. We're going to be cooking Christmas dinner together. It'll be her mother, me, my mother, and the children, simply because we felt that the interests of the children came first and that we should subvert our own particular interests to make sure that they have a happy time together on Christmas Day. And, the fact that we had cause to part shouldn't affect them in any way at all.
Well, it's a fabulous arrangement if you can manage it. But a number of questions, I suppose. First of all, how do your partners feel about having to step aside on Christmas Day?
It's never been an issue. They've always had their own families to go to. That's what's happening this year. So, and there's plenty more time over the festive season where we can each have the children separately and also see our own partners.
And
so
get
it's
together.
not a problem.
And did it ever, particularly in the early days, cause confusion for the children who might have harboured hopes that you would get back together?
It's a good question, but no, I think we made it clear. You know, we are parting, we are divorcing, but we are still friends. And I think in some senses you have to swallow your pride, but if it's clear that the children know that they are the most important thing, then they will thrive under that. And I don't regret a single moment of that. My eldest is now at university. She's come back. She loves us equally, and she's happy to see us both as much as possible. So, I'm really proud of my kids. And I'm really proud that we took this decision in their interests.
Andy, thank you so much for getting in touch. Before I get to Anne, who's in Birmingham, I just want a quick word with Jill in Cardiff, and then we'll come back to you again, Jill. But morning, by the way.
Oh, hello.
You're the manager of a family mediation service. So I just wonder, how unusual is that situation that Andy describes there?
Oh, well, I think from all the people who phoned in, you can tell that there's so many different ways that you can arrange Christmas contact with your kids, and there isn't a right way or a wrong way to do it. The most important thing is that it's comfortable for the two parents, and that the kids are happy, really. But because it's Christmas, it can be such a difficult thing to sort out, especially if your communication with the other parent is not at its best, which it could well be.
Well, I wonder if, Jill, you could just have a listen to Anne. Morning, Anne.
Okay.
Oh, hello there.
Hi, nice to talk to you. Anne, it's not quite so simple for your household, is it?
Well, no, not really. The text I sent was perhaps a little more angry than I really feel about our situation, in that the children are spending Christmas Day with us. They have done since me and my husband separated. And he comes to pick them up on Boxing Day and has them then for the rest of the Christmas school holidays. So he does get to see them over Christmas. I think the point that I was trying to make really with when you had a lot of dads who were saying that they were finding access over Christmas difficult was that actually you have to think of the mothers involved. And in my situation, my ex-husband pays me virtually no maintenance. He sees the kids through the year when it suits him. And then I think for him then to cherry pick Christmas is just, actually, I think that's wrong. And this is our family now. And your last caller who said, the partners don't attend Christmas, I just think it's dreadful. I would never ask my partner, my current partner, who is more of a father to my children than my ex-husband ever was, to not attend Christmas. And like you say, I don't think it's easy, and the children do have to, the children obviously come first.
Have they ever said that they would like to spend Christmas with their dad? Has that ever come up?
No, not Christmas Day. And like I say, they do get to see him over the Christmas period. They go down on Boxing Day, and then they spend the rest of the school holiday with them. But I do think, that there is another point of view on this, in that, I certainly to start with, I was left very much on my own to bring up two children with no support. And, I'm very lucky I have my current partner who's absolutely brilliant. But, we struggle through the year. We pay for absolutely everything. We do all the things with the kids, which is just brilliant. But we do that, and I've done that majority of the time by myself.
And Jill, you can appreciate that, and there'll be other people who'll be nodding in agreement with Anne. If you're there as a primary carer and doing the hard slog throughout the year, then why should parents share Christmas equally if the other parent is not there doing their bit the rest of the time?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's such an emotional time, the Christmas contact time, and if there's sort of unresolved conflict between the pair of you, which you haven't managed to sort out, and from what Anne was saying, there's lots of issues about money and support during the year, really. It can all sort of build up, and then suddenly Christmas becomes, instead of being a happy time for all the family, it can be a time when all these sort of things come to the fore. So, I mean, I suppose all I'm trying to say to people is family mediation is out there. There's services all over the country, and if you are having difficulty in getting things sorted between the two of you, have a think about whether it might be helpful to sort of sit down with a mediator and try and resolve all these issues, because Sorry.
No, go on, Jill. Finish what you would like to say.
I was going to say that, family mediation can look at all these issues, really, whether it's to do with contact with the children, finance, child support, whether you're still trying to sort out, issues to do with property, the family home and all the rest of it. You can look at all those issues all in one. And sometimes that can be very helpful, rather than trying to sort of just say, well, Christmas contact, this is what we're going to do.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say that, sorry to butt in again, that we have absolutely been through mediation, and this is the arrangement that we have come to agreed between the two of us. It's not an issue. It's not an issue between us. But, our relationship, me and my ex-partners, is reasonably good. But I just wanted to put the alternative point of view that, that care of the children for separated partners is not always 50-50 throughout the year. And I think that, people that don't, as such, pull their weight in the care of the children need to realise that they just can't just come in and demand what they want with no thought for the other person involved.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's been really nice to hear from you. Have a lovely Christmas. That's Anne. She's in Birmingham. Anne's not her real name, by the way. And thanks also to Jill, who contacted us as well from the Family Mediation Service. More calls to come. David and Dan are waiting patiently by. Let's get an update on the travel, though. Here's Michelle.
Well, across Northern Ireland, Wales and south-west England, the strong winds and heavy rain have kicked in, causing very tricky driving conditions. Warnings on many of the bridges as far north as Cheshire, actually, with the M6 Thelwall Viaduct. In Gloucestershire, one lane closed on the M48-7 bridge. The M4 Britain Ferry Bridge also has warnings in place. And the M25 QE2 bridge, they're expecting to have to close the bridge around about 12:30 this afternoon. All traffic will then be sent through the Dartford Tunnel, so do expect delays around lunchtime in both directions at the crossing. On those A routes, in Bedfordshire, the A421 in both directions is closed just near the M1 junction 13. That's causing queues back onto the M1 roundabout, also affecting the northbound M1. However, not so bad if you're heading from Bedford. Essex, the A12 Brentwood bypass southbound still actually has one lane closed between junctions 12 and 11 where it meets the M25. That's causing congestion back to junction 13, all because of an earlier lorry fire. The northbound side is open but still a little slow. Back to normal in Dagenham with the A13 at Marsh Way, also looking okay now with the A406 in Bounds Green. In Kent, the A2 Watling Street coastbound before the Ebbsfleet turn off. An accident still blocking two lanes and causing queuing traffic. In Devon, one lane closed on the Tamar Bridge, the A38, that's because of strong winds, and also particularly tricky driving conditions on the A38, the Parkway, that's just near Marsh Mills roundabout. And looking at the rail, if you do have a journey to do, same story with the roads. If you can get it done sooner rather than later, that's the best idea. Many companies are running revised timetables and they will accept specific train tickets for later on in the day on earlier journeys. The best thing to do is to check with the individual company, see how the timetable's been changed and what restrictions have been lifted. Michelle Dignan, 5 Live Travel.
Some of your texts then. Mark in Doncaster says, this is my first Christmas apart from my 3 kids. They're 19, 17 and 15, so they understand what's happening. I was married for 20 years, so I'm not in a good place at the moment. Struggling to cope, but I do have some great friends helping me. Another here, I've been separated from my 4 kids for 10 years, now living 500 miles away. This is the first time I will not see them during the festive season. I shed a tear most days. I am thankful, though, they're fit and healthy, but I feel a total failure. The breakup has affected the 2 eldest boys. The other 2 seem fine. And this one here, at least Darren and David, who are our callers in the first half hour, their kids know their father. A million children have never met or had a Christmas with their fathers. My daughter wrote to her father so many times and he won't meet her. She's now an adult. For her sake and her own health, she just stopped asking about Christmas.
Christmas Day
On 5 Live from 10.
I'm Hugh Dennis, and this Christmas I'll be exploring Christmas customs enjoyed during the holiday season by Radio 5 Live listeners and some special guests.
Ho, ho, ho! Then from 12, 7-day Saturdays, 7 days of Christmas.
With Al Murray, followed by
5 Live Rewind. Over the next 2 hours, you'll hear a selection of the memorable people, stories and events which have featured on BBC Radio 5 Live over the past year.
absolutely no stocking fillers. For our full festive schedule, go to bbc.co.uk/5live. This is 5 Live Breakfast. Your call.
So it's 9:53. We have David and Dan. Dan's in Wigan. Morning, Dan.
Morning.
How are you managing things this year?
Well, it's my first one, separated, but it's been suggested that I have my kids who are both, the 2 and 4, but I have them both from from Christmas Eve through to the end of Boxing Day, which was quite surprising, to be quite honest. But I'm very happy with that. But of course, it's been sort of put across in the tone of I'm being generous by letting you have them, and how sort of shocked and and horrified everybody is, all her friends are, that she's letting this situation happen in the first Christmas. So although I'm very pleased, it's still sort of complex and difficult.
Yeah, and probably if this is your first Christmas where you're dealing with this, then emotions are still going to be pretty raw, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, we barely speak. It's all done through text and emails, so it's it's not the easiest of situations. But I'm very pleased still, to have the kids. But I suspect that it might sort of come back at some point. As an issue in the future.
Have you kind of talked about future Christmases? Is this perhaps, well, you'll do it this Christmas, I'll do it next Christmas, or have you not quite got to that
yet.
stage?
Haven't got that far yet. So it's going to be a case of, see how this one goes, I think. But I mean, I might be a bit cynical here, but I suspect that she's letting me have them in this magnanimous way because it suits her not to have them for some reason or another. So although I'm very pleased, it does suggest more complications in the new year. But I guess that's how these things are.
Well, stay with us, Dan, and you can hear from David and Mark as well, who's been in touch. Hi, Mark.
Hiya.
Hi, David. First of all, you've been through this. You're slightly further down the road, David, than Dan at the moment. How are you managing it this year? What are you doing?
Well, my son's mother and I split up 11 years ago. He's 13, nearly 14 now, and we've always had the arrangement that one of us would have him Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and then the other would have him from midday Christmas Day into Boxing Day. And we've alternated year on year very happily, no issues at all. But this year, because neither of us are in a relationship with somebody else, we've decided to spend Christmas Day together, so the whole family will be together, which for Jake, our son, is fantastic. He's very happy.
Yeah, and I asked this question of an earlier caller, actually. I said, did that ever, were you concerned that gave rise to hopes from the child, that perhaps this was leading to a reconciliation? Does your boy understand where you're going with this?
No, I heard you mention that earlier. There were maybe moments many years ago where those questions were asked, but now I think our son is he's very mature for his age anyway, but he understands that his mum and dad are just two people that get on very well as two individuals, so he's just grateful for the time that he spends together.
Can you remember what it was like, as Dan's saying, in the very early stages of separation, where there's a kind of suspicion about the motives of the other partner?
Yeah, I was just listening to that actually, and whilst Dan must have been thrilled to hear that he could have his children or child for those whole 2 days, my view on that would be to actually almost insist that his children spend some time over Christmas and Boxing Day with his mother, because in 12 months' time, heaven forbid, Dan might be faced with 2 or 3 days without seeing his children when his ex-partner refers back to the previous year.
I've actually been back to her about 3 times and said, are you sure that this is what you want to do? But she's come back every time and said, yes, that's fine. You have them. So, it's I suspect that she may be away or something. But I've tried that. So I've tried to leave a paper trail and sort of kind of cover my back, if you like, which you shouldn't have to think in that way, but as you sometimes do.
Let's bring in Mark, who's in Gosport. Hi, Mark.
Hiya.
Yeah, I mean, you'll appreciate, again, what Dan and what David are both saying. Tell us about your experience with this.
Well, we've been separated now for nearly divorced for about 3 years now, but we made an agreement because obviously I came out from quite a messy divorce with my parents, and I promised if anything like this ever happened, never put my kids through the same thing. So neither one of us want to be away from the kids at Christmas. So we have the agreement. One Christmas we're at mine with all of us here, and then the following Christmas we're at my ex's, stay there New Year's, Christmas Eve, all the way through till Boxing Day. I mean, even this year we're going for dinner all together with the other side of the family for Boxing Day. So it's all about the children at the end of the day. If it means we need to get on for it, touch wood, quite fortunate, it's quite amicable. and we just get on with it. We just sleep on each other's settee when it's our turn.
And what was it like? What were your memories of Christmas as a child, Mark, growing up in a house where the parents were separating?
Well, mine was a bit more sort of, obviously it was quite acrimonious. You know, at one stage we didn't see our father for about 4 years because of maintenance issues and what have you. My father was also in the Merchant Navy, so always away and what have you. So, you know, Christmas time was depending on where we were, depending on how the mood went. You know, the plus point is if they would never see each parent, you know, they'd split it completely down the middle. So sort of like 1 week with one parent, the other week with the other. So the changeover period was quite unpleasant. You know, neither me or my sister would look forward to that.
But at the end of the day, all three of you, I'm happy to say, have a Christmas arrangement this year at least that you're happy with.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, thank you so much. Wish you all a very happy Christmas. Thank you. To Dan, to David, to Mark, and in fact to all of you for getting in touch this morning, because obviously these are deeply personal issues and can be very difficult to resolve, but it's fascinating as ever to hear your own experiences as well.